Hi everybody, this is Brooke Lyle, and welcome to this edition of the NFL Podcast. So today is December 14th as we're recording, and right now we are about to get to week 15. So what I'm going to do today is I just want to talk kind of about the New England Patriots. I want to get to that briefly. So apparently the Patriots, there might be another scandal. So basically the basics of what happened is the Patriots were getting ready to film a documentary for their team, part of the Do Your Job series. I've seen a few episodes about their Super Bowl teams. It's a good series. I recommend it. But what was going on is apparently there was footage of the Bengals sideline, which the Bengals are the worst team in the NFL this year, even worse than Miami Dolphins. If you just look at their record, they are 1-12 right now. So apparently the Patriots were trying to get ideas, so apparently the Browns gave them permission since the game was in Cleveland. The Browns gave them the okay, but they did not get permission from the NFL or the Bengals. So now they're being investigated. Since again, some people are comparing this to Spygate from what happened when the Patriots filmed the Jets sideline. That was about 12 years ago. It was in early 2007. That was a fairly big deal. The Patriots received their punishments, and right now, should they be punished again? Since are they doing the same thing, or is this just an honest mistake? Regardless of what it is, we remember a few weeks ago what happened with the Houston Astros, which the MLB is still looking into. It's still nothing resolved, but Patriots should face some sort of penalty, or maybe it was an honest mistake. Regardless, they were caught doing something that may have been beyond the rules, and they admitted they made a mistake. So the question is, what do you do now? And this is just the start of the process. It'll be interesting to see what happens later on in the process. So I just want to get to that briefly. So, in a little while, I'll get to the playoff picture. But first, I just want to talk about kind of what the Patriots are about. So they played the Chiefs. And I watched the game on Coach's Film. I did not watch it live. So when they played the Chiefs, what happened is they first drive looked quite good. They did a kind of a flea flicker play where you hand the ball to the running back, tosses it back to the quarterback, and Julian Edelman was 37 yards for a touchdown, so things look very promising. And then next drive, Patrick Mahomes throws an interception, and then the Patriots have the ball and the Chiefs 14-7 lead. Well, in years past, you'd think, okay, with the offense they have, they're just going to drive down the field, they're going to extend their lead even more. This is their game to win. They are in control of this game. On that drive, a negative 1 yard rush, and then 2 incompletions were thrown. So before you can do anything, you have to punt. And again, Tom Brady this year, you see him in recent weeks, he's faced a lot of pressure, has not been the same, and everything that just, and that was the example of that right now, and this was just the start. And then they had a field goal blocked again, so again, another opportunity. So again, think about what the Patriots have done. And that drive, at the very least, since you can't get field goals blocked, you have to have they should have had a 13-0 lead, if not a 17-0 lead. And you know what happened since the Patriots already, and their secondary has been great this year, they still, while they don't look like one of the greatest teams they've ever seen, that's what we thought before they lost to the Ravens. And it is clear they have weaknesses. But there's a play where Patrick Mahomes with Mecole Hardman, rookie out of Georgia, threw a 48-yard pass. It was really about 30 yards in the air. Someone fell down, touchdown. So already it's drive. Already it's tied. And Brady throws interceptions. This was kind of all happening in the first half. Right? So this, again, Brady throwing an interception. Threw just 2 back in 2016 where Brady was dominant. And we're not seeing the same Tom Brady this year. So before we know it, fast forward now, the Chiefs have a 17-7 lead. It's Travis Kelce has a rushing touchdown, kind of out of the wildcat. And the Patriots fail to convert and then later on they fail to convert a 4th down, so then the Chiefs 27. You can either go for the field goal. And Brady threw 3 straight incompletions on 2nd through 4th downs. That's uncharacteristic of Tom Brady. which again he did face pressure on those plays, and he missed a wide open Julian Edelman, which I saw. I looked at that play multiple times. I mean, Edelman was open again, uncharacteristic. So Brady this year not only has been facing pressure, it seems like inaccuracy stuff, and this stuff is really we've really noticed this stuff really for the last month or so. And Brady threw a lot of incompletions, a lot of punting. So this Patriots offense has really held them back. In years past, if they had any weakness, it would have been from defense. So now all of a sudden, this is what's been happening. So the Patriots lost to the Chiefs. That's the point. And yes, they had an opportunity to come back and win, but they didn't. So they lost another hard game. It seems like they have any sort of challenge at all. Baltimore Ravens. It was interesting to see that challenge in Baltimore. Ravens completely outplayed them, had no chance whatsoever. Their other loss, they lost to the Texans. They didn't show up in that game. If you look at Brady's numbers at the end of the game, it's all kind of coming back late in the game, kind of when they're down, when the game's already over, and Brady putting up numbers to make the game look kind of close. I mean, if you watch the Patriots Texans game and you saw the score, that's not what the score looked like. If you didn't watch and saw the score, it was not a close game. So they cannot beat the Texans, who just got blown out by the Broncos. They cannot beat the Chiefs. They cannot beat the Ravens. This is as of right now. This is what we've seen. And next week they're playing the Bills. Not this week. This week they're playing the Bengals, but next week they're playing the Bills, and that Bills defense, they're going to shut Brady down. That's my prediction. I have no way of knowing or trusting that they can beat the Bills in any way. And here's another interesting thing that I want to read about. So this is Brady in this game alone, which got me thinking. He was 19 for 36 of 169 passing yards. One touchdown. Threw an interception, was sacked 3 times. Yes, Brady has been sacked more this year. Since again, lack of offensive line. And while being pressured in 2019, this is not just that Chiefs game. This is throughout the entire season. 34% completion percentage. So that's 1 out of 3. And we've known this for years. I mean, remember the Giants in 2007 where they beat Brady with the great defensive line, pass rushing Brady. That's how they won 2 Super Bowls. They basically shut down the greatest offense that the league has ever seen. And is still to this day one of the greatest offenses ever. Okay? This year, the Patriots, who again have a very good defense, and certainly one of the best in recent memory. Not the best of all time, what we thought, but it is still very good. They still have a dominant defense. It is now we're not seeing, I think we might be seeing the decline of Tom Brady in his 42 at this point in time. I mean, think about it. 34 completion percentage while being pressured. So basically, if Brady's getting pressured by certain teams and is uncomfortable at all, things are not going to go well. And the last time they won games, since they've lost 2 in a row, they're now 10-3. They beat the Eagles and Cowboys. It was defense that allowed them. They allowed just 19 combined points. But in those games, I think it was 13-9 and 17-10. They struggled on offense in both of those games. So the defense carried them in those games. So when you beat 2 kind of mediocre NFC East teams, like the Eagles and Cowboys, who, again, one of them is going to have to make it to the playoffs and the other one is clearly not going to go to the playoffs, you cannot score against those teams. I mean, Eli Manning, who this last Monday night, I mean, I watched that game, who hadn't started a game for weeks, and that may have been one of the final times you'll see him starting a game. Torch that he looked way better against the Eagles defense, and especially in the first half than Brady did. Or I don't know, or go back to Ryan Fitzpatrick. The Dolphins moved the ball better than the Patriots did against the Eagles since then. Or talk about the Seahawks, who again have a much better, who again I think are face similar problems that the Patriots are this year, lack of line, and there's a big difference between someone like Russell Wilson and Tom Brady facing a bad offensive line, since Russell Wilson can run, maybe turn something negative into something positive. Brady, well, can move around, certainly is conditioned to, is in great shape. Obviously, could not run downfield, so again, it's kind of harder when you're a pure pocket passer like Tom Brady is. So again, the last time they've won games, it has been the defense. The defense deserve all the credit there. Which brings me to playing the final 3 games. Bengals, you should win that. No, you shouldn't have any trouble beating the Bengals. Bills, that's going to concern me. Since the last time they played the Bills, it was a defensive battle. It was a 16 to, I think the Patriots won 16 to 10. That was back in week 4. So you know what? We thought that was just a fluke game. This is not a fluke game. This Bills team, and granted, while the Patriots should win the division and should get a first round bye, this is probably this Bills team. They're 9-4. The Patriots are 10-3. So if some way somehow the Bills can manage to hold on, win this week, beat the Steelers on Sunday Night Football, and say somehow beat the Patriots, who the Patriots finished the year against the Dolphins, so they have 2 guaranteed wins. They should win both of those games without any trouble. That's what I'm saying, looking at the Patriots, games that they should win. And a win is a win regardless of how they do it. But if for some reason the Bills win, that there's a 1-1 tiebreaker, and then you sort through things later on, the Bills have a shot to win this division. And even if they don't win the division, going into the playoffs, they could very well face the Patriots in the divisional round. It is a possibility for sure. So for the first time in many years, since you go through this decade, right? I think the biggest threat to the Patriots in the division this decade, and really for most of this dynasty run, they've not had any threats. I think the Jets were a threat to them kind of early on in the decade, and then that completely went away and has not really been an issue since then. This Bills team, for the first time, is a threat to the Patriots, and they probably very well can beat the Patriots next week. And not only that, their defense, since I think a very good defense is capable of shutting down Tom Brady this year. And again, we remember the Broncos in the conference championship game really limited Tom Brady as well. They won with defense, right? So which brings me to the Bills' defense. So they are second in points, only behind the Patriots. So next week, next Saturday, when you have the first ranked versus second defense in points, it will be a defensive battle, third in total yards, and third in pass defense. Again, so they have the ability, with their secondary, to shut down Tom Brady. So as of right now, this is clearly a problem for the Patriots offense. And certainly something to keep an eye on. And if I had to say it, if I had to make the game pick this week, I would absolutely say the Bills are going to beat the Patriots. Since it doesn't seem like the Patriots can beat anybody who is any good. And if the Patriots, I think I want to say this again, but just a quick comment. It might be this year. The Patriots want to win a Super Bowl. They might have to do it with defense. They're going to have to do it with defense. If the offense, since again, poor offensive line, running, Shoney Michel was one of the better rookies last year, certainly on offense. This year has regressed significantly, so they really don't have a running game. And by the way, they do not have a tight end either. Robert Gronkowski, one of the best tight ends of this era, and really for the last decade or so, is not there anymore. So, who is your best tight end? Matt Lacoste or whatever. So they don't have a tight end. Think about receiving. They tried out Antonio Brown for a week. And then he had, I went at length of this and talking about Antonio Brown at the beginning of the year, had some off-the-field issues. And if you pay attention to the NFL, I'm sure you're all aware of what's going on. So they decided to get rid of him, and they released Josh Gordon, who's now in Seattle. So at one point in time, it seemed like they had a strong core of receivers. Now they don't. And receiving is all of a sudden, that could have been considered a great strength at the beginning of the year, is now a weakness. So the Patriots aren't exactly giving Tom Brady any help. Not the line isn't, the running game isn't, and his receivers right now don't look very good. So again, going into the playoffs, They need to just survive this last stretch of the regular season. It looks like they'll go 12-4 again. I'm going to predict they beat the Bengals, lose to the Bills, beat the Dolphins. So basically right now, as of right now, I'm saying their offense cannot beat a good defense. They're going to have to go completely, they're going to have to rely completely on their defense. And the Chiefs offense didn't exactly destroy them, but they certainly played quite well against this Patriots defense. The Ravens, that was the worst defense of the year. They made that defense finally, we thought was invincible, clearly show weakness. And so did the Deshaun Watson's Texans. They drove up and down the field pretty much all game against them, right? So at this point in time, we have a hard time seeing the Patriots win the Super Bowl. They're not Super Bowl favorites. So let's go ahead and talk about playoff picture right now. So as of right now, let's do AFC first. So the Ravens are 11-2. They beat the Patriots and have a tiebreaker. The Patriots are now 10-3. So with that, with 3 games left to play, or now the Ravens now they updated it. They beat the Jets on Thursday night, which Lamar Jackson was spectacular once again at 5 touchdown passes, broke Michael Vick's single season record for most rushing yards by a quarterback. So the Ravens are now 12-2. So with that tiebreaker, the Ravens could very well be 14-2, while the Patriots look like they'll be 12-4. If that holds up, the Ravens are almost certainly going to be the number 1 seed, which seems like very certain, since even if the Patriots can somehow find a way to be 13-3, and maybe the Ravens lose one more game, they're playing the Steelers and the Browns. I don't see them losing another game. They had no trouble. Well, they beat the Steelers in overtime the last time up. Again, the Steelers have one of the better defenses in the league. Certainly in the top 5 to top 10 in many categories. Yet at the same time, the Ravens have already shown they can beat them, and they've beaten a 49ers defense, a Bills defense, and a Patriots defense, who may be the 3 best defenses in the league. So, without question, the Ravens will likely be, I'm not saying should be, but will likely be 14-2. The only way they wouldn't be is let's say they're clinched the 1 seed and there's nothing left to play for. So in the last game of the season, they lose to the Steelers with RG3 starting. That's the only way I don't see it. And then, in order for that to happen, the Patriots would basically have to win out, be 13-3, and the Ravens would have to lose their last 2 games, which is not going to happen. So the Ravens have everything pretty much locked up for the time being on a 10-game winning streak. And the Ravens' defense has really improved dramatically since they've acquired Marcus Peters. In fact, I've heard a stat that they have the best defense in the NFL since he's come over there. So that trade really changed things, since defense, really the first quarter of the season, appeared to be a weakness as the Browns ran all over them back in week 4. The Ravens will be the 1 seed. The Patriots now being 10-3, and the Chiefs at 9-4, who have clinched the West already. So with that, something to keep an eye on. If the Chiefs can find a way to win out, and the Patriots wind up being 12-4, then all of a sudden, now the Chiefs could have that tiebreaker. So that's something to keep an eye on as well. So now the Chiefs have home field and the Patriots do not. And maybe the Patriots okay. So let's say this. Let's talk about the Patriots. Let's say best case scenario. I think the best case scenario in the current situation is the Patriots offense figures it out in their bye week leading up to the playoffs. So they have the 2 seed. Unrealistically, they're not going to have the 1 seed. I think that's unrealistic at this point. The odds are low. But the best case scenario is their defense is this is their best case scenario. Best case scenario, Brady comes back. And Brady and Belichick make their what's the word? What's the word for it? Connections or adjustments. Yes. So they make their adjustments. and they find a way to have good chemistry with their current group of receivers, what they have. Maybe the running game somehow opens up. You remember what happened last year? It seemed like they were 11-5. They were 9-5 at one point, and they only went 11-5. They lost their number one seed. Yet they got hot in the playoffs. And whatever their problems were, they get hot in the playoffs. Doesn't matter who they play. Whether they play the Chiefs again, they beat them no problem. And in the rematch with the Ravens, they beat them. Since the defense comes in and limits Lamar Jackson, and Brady comes back, and they win the Super Bowl. Best case scenario, they win the Super Bowl and they make adjustments. And once again, we're down in the Patriots. They're clearly showing weakness right now, and they prove us all wrong. What I expect to happen is, since I'm going to declare this, I said this a week ago after the Ravens beat the 49ers, is the Ravens are Super Bowl favorites right now. They are the best team in the NFL. They are Super Bowl favorites. So what I think is going to happen is they're going to end up having a bye and they're going to lose to the Ravens again. That's what I think is going to happen in the conference championship game, since the Ravens clearly cannot be stopped. Worst case scenario with the Patriots, they lose their bye and to the Chiefs, and let's say they end up being, and by the way, the Texans do have a tiebreaker over them, but the Patriots are going to go 12-4. So they're 12-4, and so are the Chiefs. And they run into a juggernaut like the Steelers or the Bills, since if the Steelers win, they'd have a tiebreaker over the Bills. Either way, they play one of them in the playoffs, and their defense shuts Brady down, and they lose in the first round of the playoffs, since they just can't find a way to beat any defense that's any good at all. And Duck Hodges somehow finds a way, or Josh Allen, their offenses, whatever they do, find a way to outplay the Patriots, and they lose in the first round. That is the worst case scenario. I think that's the worst thing. That is not going to happen. I think what's going to happen is they are going to get a bye, and they might lose in the second round, but probably in the conference championship. So that's the worst case scenario. I don't think the worst case. The most likely scenario is scenario number 2. So now you have the Chiefs, who are the 3 seed, 9-4. Who again, they survived without Patrick Mahomes for that stretch in the middle of the season. They've clinched the West. There might have been some doubt of whether the Raiders could win the division. That has completely gone away after they blew out the Raiders 2 weeks ago. That is all but over. So right now it'd be Chiefs, Steelers, and then it would be Texans, Bills as of right now. Which the Texans, they've had some nice wins, for sure, beating the Patriots. And they have a critical game against the Titans this week, who are 8-5. So the Titans are 8-5. So are the Texans, and so are the Steelers. So now, in this game, whoever wins this game, and the Texans have the Titans twice down the stretch. So really, whoever wins this first game will be in first place in the AFC South, who I was very impressed by the Titans' offense, especially by Ryan Tannehill, Derrick Henry. They have been outstanding this year. And their defense is not as good as it was last year. Again, offense was a terrible weakness for them. It was the play of Marcus Mariota that cost them in the playoffs. If the Titans can find a way to get into the playoffs, maybe they can win a game or two. And maybe, just maybe, since they, again, last year their defense beat the Patriots alone, maybe they find a way to beat the Patriots in the second round. Maybe they're that dark horse team. Or they're just a team that misses the playoffs. You don't know. But the problem is right now, they're stuck playing. They're stuck out of the playoffs since obviously the Steelers getting red hot. So again, whoever wins this game will be in first place in the AFC South, and then they'll play each other in Week 17. So it will be interesting to see how the tie-breaking process works. And but again, I think whoever wins this game will be in complete control. And whoever wins 2 out of 3 would just certainly win the South. There'd be no other way to put it. So we'll see. It's going to be very close between the Texans and the Titans. On the other side, you have the Steelers, who are playing the Bills on Sunday Night Football. If the Bills win, they will clinch a playoff spot, so they will be in. I think that game will be a defensive battle, since you have quarterbacks that can win games, but are not elite by any stretch. I think both teams are well coached, especially the Steelers. I mean, think about it. No Juju Smith-Schuster for for the last 3 weeks has not played since that Browns game. And you've won every game since you lost to the Browns, so they're on a 3-game winning streak. You really don't have a solid running back. No James Conner. Le'Veon Bell is long gone, obviously. No Antonio Brown, who left this offseason. And no Ben Roethlisberger, has not played since week 2. So it looked like the Steelers were at 1.1-4. It looked to be okay, a lost season for them. But whatever success they've had, Mason Rudolph and Duck Hodges, down your third-string quarterback, is right in the playoff picture and could very well make it to the playoffs. A very young and good defense. So I think the Steelers, even if they don't make it to the playoffs this year, I think they have a good plan long term, and I think they, like they've done in the past, I think they are built for long-term success. So again, if the Steelers make it to the playoffs, you have to give Tomlin the Coach of the Year award. So then there's that game. So that'll be interesting to watch. So again, the playoffs looks like, as of right now, the Steelers win, they'd bump up to a 5 seed, and it depends on what happens to the Titans, since they currently have some sort of tiebreaker over the Titans right now. So now let's go on to the NFC playoff picture. So on the NFC side, the 49ers are 11-2. The reason why is they beat the Packers. Their defense shut down the Packers. And against the Saints is the exact opposite. So it's kind of funny. So the Packers have no chance whatsoever. And the Packers hold some sort of tiebreaker over the Saints as of right now, as they are 10-3 and so are the Saints. So the Packers went on to, so the Packers are 10-3 and so are the Saints. So it's funny that the Packers can't score against their defense at all, have no chance, and the Saints put up 46 against the 49ers, yet they lose out as a spectacular game, tons of offense. Jimmy G played great, so was Breeze, just an offensive shootout that I was not expecting. And with that, the 49ers were able to show they were the best team in the NFC. Despite a game a very fluky game where their defense did not show up, so the 49ers are the best team. And the Seahawks are 10-3. They had a bad loss to the Rams on Sunday Night Football, who they're now 1-1. So again, if this holds, which they will play each other in the final game of the year, and if the Seahawks can stay within a game behind, technically, and then win, they have the tiebreaker. So again, whoever wins Week 17 will win the division. If the Seahawks can currently tread water and be in that position to win the West. So it's going to be very interesting to see who wins the West, but that's going to be the final. I believe that'll be the final tiebreaker game of the year. And then the Saints 10-3. The question is, do they eventually surpass the Packers at any point in time? And then finally, you have the Cowboys, who are 6-7, and so are the Eagles. The Cowboys have a tiebreaker over the Eagles since they beat them. The Bears are 7-6, and the Rams are 8-5. Vikings are currently 9-4. So what's going to happen is, if I had to project the playoffs, so I have the Ravens going to the Super Bowl, and they're my current pick to win the Super Bowl as of right now. So on the NFC side, what's going to happen is the Saints or the Packers beat someone like the Vikings. The Vikings are a good team, a very good 6th seed. That's how strong the NFC is. Dalvin Cook's one of the league leaders in rushers. At times, was even at the top of the list. And Kirk Cousins has had some very nice games. And they just beat the Lions 20-7. So the Vikings are at 9-4, but I would say they'd end up losing to a team like the Saints or the Packers in the first round. And then whoever loses the NFC West, whether that's the Seahawks or the 49ers, will end up beating a team like the Cowboys or the Eagles in the first round of the playoffs, which the Cowboys and Eagles will play next week, and the winner of that game would more than likely, since the Eagles, if they win out, they do win the division. So both of them have to survive, and the Cowboys are playing the Rams this week, a team that has 8-5. So if you put the Rams in the NFC East, they have a 2-game lead. They'd be running away with the division, but that's not how it works. They're out of the playoffs. Heck, even the Bears, who really outplayed the Cowboys and beat the Cowboys last Thursday night, are 7-6, going up against the 6-7 Cowboys team. So again, put the Bears in that division. They win it. If the season ended today, they'd win it too and be in good position to win the division. So again, the loser of the West, Niners or Seahawks, beats either the Eagles or Cowboys in the first round of the playoffs. And I'm going to say the Saints end up beating the Packers. So we have a 49ers Saints rematch. And I'm going to say the Super Bowl, as of right now, I'm going to say is going to be the Ravens against either the Niners or the Seahawks, who the Ravens beat both of them this year. So the Ravens have done everything on their... Seems like they've checked off pretty much every box they needed to. The only games they lost this year was in a shootout to the Chiefs back in Week 3 and to the Browns in Week 4. So that'll be my pick as of right now. So now, quickly, I want to end on most disappointing and surprise teams. So, disappointing teams in that category. Put the Jets. The reason why is I think they had a lot of preseason hype. They signed Le'Veon Bell. They hired Adam Gase to make Sam Darnold a better player. And they've had their moments. They've won some games this year, but they've clearly lost a lot of games this year. That's why they're 5-9. And this is very disappointing right now. I thought they might have potential be that team in the AFC East that could be a potential playoff contender. And at one point, I think they were 1-7. Sure, they beat the Cowboys at one point in time, but they lost to the Dolphins. They lost to the Bengals. The Jets are a very disappointing team this year. That's why they're on my list. The Browns 6-7. They were very hyped. Some people had them going to the Super Bowl. I had them making to the playoffs and losing the second round. For a period of time, they started out 2-6. I talked about how disappointing they've been. Baker Mayfield has been very disappointing. And they're 6-7, and they're almost certainly going to miss the playoffs. Basically, when they failed to beat the Steelers for a second time, that all but ended their shot of making it to the playoffs. So the Browns will miss the playoffs, and I've heard a lot of rumors of Freddie Kitchens potentially being fired. So again, the Browns, very hyped, miss the playoffs. They might be the most disappointing team. Then you have the LA Chargers, who are 5-8. Who again last year they were a team that went 12-4, and who I thought were a sneaky Super Bowl dark horse pick. They lost to the Patriots. I thought they were going to win the West. I thought they were going to go to the conference championship game this year. Obviously, they have failed to meet their expectations. They've missed their expectations. Question is, how much longer will Phillip Rivers be there as their quarterback? And they will more than almost certainly miss the playoffs. Cowboys, Eagles, obviously. I thought the Cowboys at times might have been a Super Bowl contender the first 3 weeks of the year. And they look like favorites to win the East for a long time. Yet they have fallen apart. They're on a 3-game losing streak. They're now 6-7. They're playing a Rams team that has won their last 2 games and 3 out of the last 4, who have seemed to figure things out. And they could very well be 6-8. And they have to play the Eagles again. And the Eagles are also on the list too, who again, yes, they've had a lot of injuries. Think about who was their best receiver. Was it Jay Ortega Whiteside or whatever? Is he probably their best receiver? Since they had so many injuries. They have no Alshon Jeffrey, no Nelson Aguilar, no Deshaun Jackson for a long period of time. They're 3 best receivers. They really don't have a running game's kind of a weakness. Their defense is not particularly good either. Carson Wentz has had to carry the team. And they very nearly lost to the Giants on Monday Night Football, and that's the way it looked like it was going to be. So really, this seems like the NFC East this year. It seems like nobody wants it. It seems like the Cowboys have been giving it up. That was their division to win. I picked the Eagles to go to the conference championship game this year. I thought both teams would be really good, and both teams would make it to the playoffs. And the Cowboys at times I thought were Super Bowl contenders. Talented they are. If you look at all the names on their roster and what they've done this year, they are both disappointing. And even if one of them makes it to the playoffs, they'll still be disappointing since one of them is going to make it to the playoffs and lose it in the first round. So for both teams, I think it will be a disappointing season. Falcons 4-9. They went to 1-7 at some point. Sure, they've won games recently, but it doesn't really matter. Dan Quinn should be fired. Their defense is one of the worst in the NFL. Once again, they have failed to. They have built a Super Bowl caliber contender only to let it go. And the Rams 8-5. Again, if the West wasn't so strong, then they'd clearly be a wild card team. But that one, I did not expect the 49ers to be 11-2, or the Seahawks to be 10-3 for that matter. They're clearly the third best team in the West right now. Many years I think they could get into the playoffs, but it is possible that they could miss the playoffs unless the Vikings cool off down the stretch. So again, even if the Rams end up 10-6 and miss the playoffs, I call them disappointing for missing the playoffs. Surprise teams, I have the Steelers, who are 8-5. Think about the job Mike Tomlin's done. I just talked about them earlier. Down in your third string quarterback. All the key pieces from your offense that you had in years past are gone. No Ben Roethlisberger. You've managed to build, once again, a strong defense in Pittsburgh. It is possible the Titans 8-5. It appeared they had moved on from Marcus Mariota. Ryan Tannehill has taken over, and their offense has improved dramatically. They are 8-5. Again, they've been in this position the last 3 or 4 years. The question is, can the Titans this time come through and make it to the playoffs? And the 49ers 11-2. I had no idea, especially last year Jimmy G was hurt. This year they've built one of the best defenses in the NFL that has basically been number 2 or number 3 behind only the Patriots. Of course, after that recent game against the Saints, that was the first time their defense has really been exposed this year to that degree, where they basically had no defense. But again, they also have very good running. They kind of mix and match when it comes to running. They're the most surprising team of the NFL, and I think the 49ers, if they win the West, will make it to the Super Bowl. And if they don't win the West, they could have a conference championship matchup with the Seahawks or the 49ers regardless. So again, really 1, 2, 3, and the 5 seed. Very strong in FC. Those are my surprise teams. So in closing, my current Super Bowl pick as of right now, going into the playoffs, as of right now, looking at the current playoff picture, would be Ravens over the 49ers. Just if everything ended today, that's what you started, that's what you did. So thank you for listening to this edition, and we will see you next time.